Before history had a name, before cities learned how to breathe, humans carved gods into mountains, buried temples beneath the earth, and built cities meant to vanish. From a forgotten city beneath the sands of Central Asia to caves painted with eternity along the Silk Road, these are not ruins. They are messages left behind by civilizations that knew something we no longer remember. Nestled in the vast expanses of Central Asia, the ancient city of Merv emerged as one of the most significant urban centers in the region, tracing its origins back over 2,500 years. Situated in what is now modern-day Turkmenistan, Merv thrived on the banks of the Murgab River, a lifeline in an otherwise arid landscape. Its strategic location made it a crossroads for merchants, scholars, and conquerors traveling along the Silk Road, linking China, Persia, and the Mediterranean world. Archaeological evidence indicates that Merv was inhabited as early as the Achaemenid period, around the 6th century BCE. Initially a small settlement, it gradually expanded under successive empires, including the Seleucids, Parthians, and Sassanids. Each ruling dynasty left its imprint on the city, from monumental architecture to intricate irrigation systems, which transformed the desert into fertile farmland capable of sustaining a large population. The city's early significance lay not only in trade, but also in its cultural and intellectual contributions. Merv became a hub for scholars, poets, and philosophers, fostering a rich environment where ideas from different civilizations converged. The city's libraries and educational institutions attracted thinkers from across the known world, making Merv a beacon of learning long before the rise of Baghdad. Despite frequent invasions and political upheavals, Merv's resilience was remarkable. Its walls, towers, and fortifications reflected both its wealth and its strategic importance. The city's urban planning, with well-defined streets, marketplaces, and residential quarters, showcased an early understanding of city design that would influence urban development across Central Asia for centuries. The 8th to 13th centuries marked the golden era of Merv, a period when it reached unparalleled prosperity and influence. Under the Abbasid Caliphate, the city became a flourishing center of commerce, science, and art. Its population swelled to hundreds of thousands, making it one of the largest cities in the world at the time. This prosperity was fueled by Merv's critical position along the Silk Road, where caravans carried silk, spices, precious metals, and ideas between East and West. Architecturally, this era left an indelible mark. Grand mosques, madrasas, and palaces adorned the city, while sophisticated water management systems ensured reliable irrigation. The city's citadel, known as Gaya Kala, became a symbol of both power and cultural achievement, its walls enclosing a complex network of streets, homes, and public buildings. Merv's urban sophistication rivaled that of Baghdad, reflecting a city at the zenith of its development. Merv also became a cultural melting pot. Scholars from Persia, India, and the Islamic world settled here, exchanging knowledge in mathematics, astronomy, medicine, and philosophy. The city produced influential figures whose works were disseminated across the Islamic world. Merv's libraries were legendary, filled with manuscripts that chronicled the wisdom of centuries. Trade, religion, and culture intertwined seamlessly, creating a vibrant urban tapestry. Markets bustled with merchants, while scholars debated in courtyards and mosques. Merv's influence extended far beyond its walls. It became a reference point for travelers, chroniclers, and geographers who marveled at the city's wealth and sophistication. In many ways, Merv exemplified the height of urban civilization in the medieval Islamic world. Despite its golden era, Merv's fortune was never permanent. The city faced repeated invasions and political turmoil, culminating in catastrophic destruction during the Mongol conquests of the 13th century. Genghis Khan's army, relentless in its campaign across Central Asia, decimated Merv in 1221, killing tens of thousands of inhabitants and reducing the city to ruins. Historical accounts describe the scale of devastation as unprecedented. Streets once filled with scholars, merchants, and artisans were left silent, and libraries and palaces were destroyed or looted. Prior to the Mongol invasion, Merv had also endured sieges and political instability under various regional powers, including the Seljuks and Khwarezm Shahs. Each period of conquest weakened the city's infrastructure, disrupted trade, and displaced populations. Despite these setbacks, Merv continued to be partially inhabited, and small communities sought to maintain its legacy, though the city never fully regained its former grandeur. The decline of Merv illustrates the fragility of even the most prosperous civilizations when faced with external threats. Its strategic location, once a source of wealth, also made it a target for empires seeking to dominate Central Asia. Today, the ruins of Merv stand as a testament to both human achievement and vulnerability, with remnants of walls, mausoleums, and irrigation channels offering glimpses of the city's former splendor. Archaeologists have meticulously documented these ruins, revealing insights into the city's layout, daily life, and cultural importance. Excavations continue to uncover artifacts, ceramics, coins, inscriptions that testify to Merv's role as a hub of commerce, scholarship, and urban sophistication. Through these findings, the story of Merv persists, bridging the gap between the past and the present. Today, the ancient city of Merv is recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, celebrated for its historical, architectural, and cultural significance. Its ruins, spread across an expansive desert plain, continue to captivate historians, archaeologists, and tourists alike. Visitors can walk along the remnants of ancient walls, explore the foundations of mosques and palaces, and imagine the bustling markets and scholarly pursuits that once defined the city. Merv's legacy extends beyond its physical remains. As a center of knowledge, trade, and cultural exchange, it played a crucial role in shaping the intellectual and economic history of Central Asia. Its influence on urban planning, architectural design, and scholarly networks can be traced in cities across the region, reflecting Merv's enduring imprint on history. Scholarly studies of Merv offer insights into the rise and fall of civilizations, highlighting how geography, trade, and human ingenuity intersect to create thriving urban centers. They also serve as a reminder of the impermanence of even the most advanced societies, as environmental challenges, political instability, and external invasions can swiftly alter the course of history. In a broader sense, Merv symbolizes the rich tapestry of human achievement in Central Asia, where diverse cultures, religions, and economies converged. Its story continues to inspire contemporary historians and archaeologists, while its ruins stand as a silent monument to the resilience and creativity of past civilizations. For anyone exploring the vast landscapes of Turkmenistan, Merv offers a journey through time, a window into a world where commerce, culture, and knowledge once flourished in harmony. In the wide plains of central Anatolia, where the land stretches flat beneath an endless sky, lies the remains of one of humanity's most radical experiments. Çatalhöyük is not impressive at first glance. There are no towering temples, no palaces, no defensive walls. And yet, this Neolithic settlement, first founded around 7400 BCE, represents one of the earliest and most complex examples of permanent human community ever discovered. Çatalhöyük was not a city in the modern sense. It had no streets, no public squares, no visible hierarchy carved into stone. Instead, houses were built directly against one another, forming a dense honeycomb of mud brick structures. People moved across rooftops rather than roads, entering their homes through openings in the ceiling using ladders. This unusual design was not accidental. It reflected a world where security, cooperation, and shared identity mattered more than monumentality. With no streets at ground level, the settlement formed a continuous wall against the outside world, both practical and symbolic. Inside the houses, life unfolded in carefully organized spaces. Platforms were used for sleeping, working, and ritual activities. Hearths provided warmth and food. Walls were plastered and replastered repeatedly, preserving layers of memory beneath fresh surfaces. Çatalhöyük was home to thousands at its peak, sustained by early agriculture and animal domestication. Wheat, barley, and peas were cultivated nearby. Sheep and goats were herded. Yet hunting remained important, linking the community to older ways of life. This was not a sudden break from the past, but a careful negotiation between tradition and innovation. One of the most striking aspects of Çatalhöyük is what it lacks: clear evidence of social hierarchy. Excavations have revealed houses of remarkably similar size and structure. No building stands above the rest, no elite residences dominate the settlement. Burials reinforce this pattern. The dead were buried beneath the floors of homes, often under sleeping platforms. Men, women, and children were interred in similar ways, accompanied by comparable grave goods. There is no sign that wealth or power determined one's treatment in death. This suggests a society built on relative equality, where status was not expressed through architecture or material accumulation. Authority, if it existed, may have been situational, earned through skill, age, or ritual knowledge rather than inherited rank. Daily life at Çatalhöyük was intimate and physical. People lived close together, surrounded by family and neighbors. Walls were decorated with paintings, hunting scenes, geometric patterns, and abstract symbols. These were not casual decorations. They were renewed again and again, indicating deep cultural meaning. The human body itself became a site of expression. Figurines, often depicting fleshy female forms, have been interpreted as fertility symbols, mother figures, or representations of abundance. Yet recent research suggests these objects were not dominant cult icons, but part of a broader symbolic vocabulary. Life at Çatalhöyük was not idyllic. Disease spread easily in crowded conditions. Smoke filled indoor spaces. Injuries from daily labor were common, but the community endured for over 1,000 years, an extraordinary achievement for such an early settlement. At Çatalhöyük, the boundary between life and death was thin. The dead were not placed in distant cemeteries. They remained beneath the homes of the living. Skulls were sometimes removed, plastered, and displayed, then reburied. This practice suggests ancestor veneration, a belief that the dead remained present and influential within the household. Homes were more than shelters. They were sacred spaces layered with memory. Certain houses were rebuilt repeatedly on the same spot, generation after generation. These history houses accumulated more burials, more paintings, more ritual significance over time. Wall art reveals a symbolic world shaped by animals and transformation. Bulls, in particular, held powerful meaning. Real bullhorns were embedded into walls and platforms, creating installations that merged architecture, ritual, and memory. These were not decorations, they were statements. One of the most famous images from Çatalhöyük appears to show a town beneath an erupting volcano, possibly Mount Hasan. If this interpretation is correct, it may represent one of the earliest landscape depictions in human history, a moment where people placed themselves consciously within a larger, dangerous world. Religion at Çatalhöyük was not centralized. There were no temples set apart from daily life. Ritual was domestic, woven into cooking, sleeping, and burying the dead. Belief was not something visited, it was lived. This integration of the sacred into the everyday may explain the settlement's resilience. Meaning was not imposed from above, it emerged from shared experience. Around 6200 BCE, Çatalhöyük began to change. The population gradually declined, houses were abandoned, new settlements emerged in nearby areas. There is no evidence of violent destruction or sudden collapse. Instead, Çatalhöyük seems to have been left behind as lifestyles evolved. Agricultural practices shifted, social needs changed. What once worked for a dense, inward-focused community may no longer have suited a growing and diversifying population. By the time it was fully abandoned, Çatalhöyük had already left a profound legacy. It demonstrated that large-scale cooperation was possible without kings, palaces, or centralized power. It showed that belief systems could exist without formal temples. It proved that humans could live permanently together long before cities as we recognize them appeared. Rediscovered in the mid-20th century and extensively excavated by archaeologist James Mellart and later Ian Hodder, Çatalhöyük transformed our understanding of early society. It challenged the assumption that complexity requires hierarchy and that progress follows a single path. Çatalhöyük was not a primitive precursor waiting to become something else. It was a complete social experiment, successful on its own terms. Today, its mud brick walls have eroded and its rooftops no longer echo with footsteps, but its lessons remain. It reminds us that the first cities were not built with stone and authority, but with cooperation, memory, and shared belief. Human civilization did not begin with empires. It began in homes.
Ephesus was not born quietly. Long before its marble streets echoed with footsteps of merchants, pilgrims, and emperors, the city existed in the realm of myth. According to ancient tradition, it was founded by Ionian Greeks under the leadership of Androclus, a prince guided by prophecy and omens. But archaeology reveals a deeper truth. Ephesus stood atop layers of earlier settlements, shaped by Anatolian cultures long before Greek colonists arrived. Situated near the mouth of the Cayster River on the western coast of Asia Minor, Ephesus possessed one of the most strategic locations in the ancient world. It was a gateway between East and West, where trade routes converged and ideas flowed as freely as goods. Timber from the interior, spices from the east, wine and olive oil from the Aegean all passed through its harbor. By the 7th century BCE, Ephesus had already become a significant urban center. Yet its destiny was forever changed by one structure, the Temple of Artemis. More than a religious sanctuary, it was a symbol of identity, power, and wealth. Artemis of Ephesus was not the gentle huntress of Greek myth, but a uniquely local deity, fertile, commanding, and ancient. Her cult drew pilgrims from across the Mediterranean. When the Lydian king Croesus conquered the city in the 6th century BCE, he did not destroy it. Instead, he adorned it. Under his patronage, the Temple of Artemis was rebuilt on an unprecedented scale. Later counted among the 7 wonders of the ancient world, it proclaimed Ephesus as a city chosen by the gods themselves. But greatness once achieved demands constant defense. Ephesus would soon learn that prosperity attracts both admiration and ambition. Ephesus reached its zenith under Roman rule. After passing briefly through Persian and Hellenistic lands, the city became part of the Roman Republic in 133 BCE when King Attalus III of Pergamum bequeathed his kingdom to Rome. What followed was not decline, but transformation. Under the Romans, Ephesus became the capital of the province of Asia, one of the wealthiest regions in the empire. Its population swelled, possibly exceeding 200,000 at its peak. monumental architecture reshaped the city into a living display of Roman order and ambition. The streets were paved with marble, lined with colonnades, fountains, and statues. The library of Celsus, both a tomb and a temple of knowledge, stood as a testament to intellectual prestige. Its facade, carefully designed to appear larger than it truly was, reflected Rome's mastery of illusion and power. Nearby, the Great Theater dominated the slope of Mount Pion. Capable of seating over 25,000 spectators, it hosted not only performances, but political assemblies and public spectacles. Here, the voice of the city could rise as one, sometimes in celebration, sometimes in outrage. Daily life in Ephesus was vibrant and complex. Wealthy elites lived in lavish terrace houses adorned with mosaics and frescoes, while artisans, slaves, and traders filled the lower quarters. Bathhouses, latrines, and markets formed the social heart of the city, where gossip, business, and politics intertwined. Religion remained central but diverse. Alongside Artemis, Roman gods were worshipped, emperors were deified, and mystery cults flourished. Ephesus was not just Roman, it was cosmopolitan, layered, and alive. Yet beneath the grandeur, tensions simmered. Economic inequality, religious conflict, and the fragility of urban life loomed over the city's apparent stability.
Ephesus was more than a political and economic hub. It was a battleground of beliefs. In the 1st century CE, the city became one of the earliest centers of Christianity. According to tradition, the Apostle Paul preached here for several years, challenging the dominance of Artemis and provoking fierce resistance. The Book of Acts recounts a riot led by silversmiths whose livelihood depended on producing statues of the goddess. Their cry, "Great is Artemis of the Ephesians," echoed through the theater, revealing how deeply religion and economy were entwined. Conversion was not just spiritual, it threatened the city's identity. Christianity, however, endured. By the 2nd and 3rd centuries, Christian communities had grown in number and influence. Ephesus became one of the 7 churches of Asia mentioned in the Book of Revelation, praised for its endurance, yet warned for losing its first love. Imperial favor eventually shifted. As Christianity gained official recognition, pagan temples fell into neglect. The Temple of Artemis, once the city's pride, was damaged by invasions, dismantled for building materials, and finally abandoned. Stones that once glorified a goddess were reused in churches dedicated to a new faith. Ephesus also played a key role in theological history. In 431 CE, the Council of Ephesus convened here, shaping Christian doctrine and igniting controversies that would divide the church for centuries. The city, once sacred to Artemis, now stood at the heart of Christian orthodoxy. Yet faith alone could not protect Ephesus from forces beyond belief. Nature, slowly and relentlessly, was reshaping the land itself. The fall of Ephesus was not sudden nor dramatic. It was gradual, almost invisible to those living through it. The very river that had once enriched the city became its undoing. Over centuries, the Cayster River deposited silt into the harbor, pushing the coastline farther away. Ships could no longer reach the port. Trade dwindled, prosperity faded. Attempts were made to dredge and adapt, but the problem persisted. Without maritime access, Ephesus lost its strategic importance. Earthquakes damaged buildings, plagues reduced the population. Repeated invasions, including those by the Goths and later Arab forces, further weakened the city. By the early medieval period, inhabitants began abandoning the lowlands, retreating to more defensible hills. The grand avenues fell silent, marble columns collapsed, weeds grew where processions once marched. Eventually, Ephesus became a quarry. Its stones were reused in nearby towns. Its memory survived in texts, legends, and scattered ruins. For centuries, its exact location was forgotten. Rediscovery came in the 19th century when archaeologists followed ancient descriptions and inscriptions to uncover the buried city. What emerged was not merely ruins, but a frozen echo of urban life, streets worn by footsteps, homes marked by intimate details, temples scarred by devotion and neglect. Today, Ephesus stands as one of the best-preserved ancient cities in the Mediterranean. It is a testament to human ambition, adaptability, and vulnerability. Empires rose and fell within its walls, gods were worshipped and abandoned, faiths clashed, and nature reclaimed its ground. Ephesus reminds us that even the greatest cities are temporary. Stone may endure longer than flesh, but silence eventually claims them all. Perched dramatically on the cliffs of Tian Shui in Gansu Province, China, the Maijishan grottos are a remarkable testament to the fusion of art, religion, and human perseverance. Carved into the reddish sandstone cliffs that rise nearly 200 meters above the Meiji Mountain, these grottos are an intricate network of over 190 caves containing more than 7,000 Buddhist sculptures and 1,000 square meters of murals. Their creation began during the later Qin dynasty, around the late 4th century CE, a period marked by the spread of Buddhism throughout China via the Silk Road. The grottos were more than mere religious monuments. They were centers of devotion, education, and artistic innovation. Monks, artisans, and patrons collaborated over centuries to carve sanctuaries, statues, and murals that reflected both spiritual devotion and technical ingenuity. The location of Maijishan was strategic. It sat along important Silk Road routes, connecting central China to western regions, allowing the flow of religious ideas, artistic styles, and trade goods. Early grottos were modest and focused on meditation spaces and simple Buddha statues, reflecting the devotional practices of early Chinese Buddhism. As dynasties changed and imperial patronage increased, the grottos evolved into elaborate chambers with intricate reliefs and colossal figures. The interplay of natural rock formations and man-made artistry gave the grottos a unique aesthetic, where the cliffs themselves became an integral part of spiritual and artistic expression. The historical context of Maijishan is inseparable from the wider narrative of Buddhist art in China. Influences from India, Central Asia, and even Hellenistic traditions can be traced in the sculptures and murals, illustrating the cosmopolitan nature of the Silk Road. Each cave captures a distinct moment in this evolving artistic and religious landscape, making Maijishan not only a spiritual sanctuary, but also a living chronicle of cultural exchange. The Maijishan grottos are renowned for their extraordinary artistic achievements, blending sculpture, mural painting, and cliffside engineering in ways that are both visually stunning and spiritually resonant. Over centuries, artisans carved intricate niches into the cliffs, installing Buddha statues that range from small figurines to colossal figures over 15 meters tall. These sculptures depict the Buddha, bodhisattvas, heavenly beings, and scenes from Buddhist sutras, each crafted with remarkable attention to detail and expressive subtlety. Murals covering the grotto walls further enhance the artistic legacy. Painted with mineral pigments that have remarkably survived the centuries, they illustrate Buddhist narratives, the lives of monks, and the spiritual journeys of devotees. Over time, styles evolved to reflect the aesthetics of successive dynasties, from the angular, simple forms of the Northern Wei to the dynamic and fluid lines of the Tang dynasty. The fusion of realism, stylization, and spiritual symbolism gives the grottos a unique identity distinct from other Chinese Buddhist sites. Architecturally, Maijishan demonstrates ingenuity and adaptability. Wooden walkways, platforms, and staircases connect the caves across the sheer cliff face, allowing visitors and monks to access sanctuaries hundreds of meters above the valley floor. The integration of human-made structures with the natural rock formations reflects an understanding of both engineering and aesthetics, where functionality complements spiritual purpose.
Despite their enduring beauty, the Maijishan grottos have faced numerous challenges over the centuries. Natural erosion, earthquakes, and exposure to the elements have threatened both the cliffs and the delicate artworks within. Human activity, including the theft of sculptures and damage from unregulated tourism, further endangered the integrity of the site. Modern preservation efforts began in the 20th century, with Chinese authorities and international conservation teams collaborating to stabilize the cliffs, restore murals, and protect the sculptures. Techniques include climate-controlled shelters for particularly vulnerable caves, structural reinforcements for wooden platforms, and meticulous cleaning and restoration of pigments. Digital documentation and 3D scanning have also become critical tools, ensuring that Maijishan's artistic and historical record can be studied and appreciated even if physical access becomes restricted. Rediscovery and scholarly interest have illuminated the broader significance of Maijishan. Researchers have identified influences from Indian, Central Asian, and even Greco-Bactrian artistic traditions, highlighting the site's role as a melting pot along the Silk Road. The grottos also provide invaluable data on the development of Buddhist iconography, monastic organization, and regional politics across multiple dynasties. Each cave, mural, and inscription contributes to a growing understanding of how Buddhism shaped and was shaped by Chinese society over more than a millennium. The challenges faced by Maijishan underscore the fragility of cultural heritage. Balancing preservation, tourism, and scholarship requires constant vigilance, but these efforts have ensured that the grottos continue to inspire awe and scholarship, offering a window into a civilization where religion, art, and engineering merged seamlessly. Today, the Maijishan grottos are recognized as one of China's most important cultural and historical treasures, celebrated for their artistic, spiritual, and historical significance. A UNESCO World Heritage Site, the grottos attract visitors, pilgrims, and scholars from around the world, eager to experience the synthesis of art, devotion, and ingenuity carved into the cliffs. The grottos' legacy extends far beyond their physical presence. They illustrate the spread and localization of Buddhism in China, showing how foreign religious ideas were adapted to local tastes and cultural norms. Artistic innovations developed at Maijishan influenced other Buddhist sites across China, including the famous Yungang and Longmen grottos. The site also exemplifies the historical importance of the Silk Road, where trade routes facilitated not only the movement of goods, but also the transmission of culture, religion, and technology. In addition to their historical and spiritual significance, the grottos continue to inspire contemporary artists, historians, and architects. The integration of natural rock, sculptural form, and painted narrative provides a model of artistic harmony that resonates in modern creative fields. Digital preservation initiatives, including virtual tours and high-resolution imaging, now allow people worldwide to explore the grottos, ensuring that Maijishan's treasures endure for generations to come. Ultimately, the Maijishan grottos stand as a testament to human devotion, creativity, and resilience. Over centuries, monks, artisans, and patrons transformed cliffs into a spiritual and artistic marvel. Today, the grottos offer a profound reminder of the power of faith, the richness of cross-cultural exchange, and the timeless beauty of art carved in stone. On a quiet limestone ridge in southeastern Anatolia, far from the great rivers where civilization was supposed to begin, lies a place that should not exist. Göbekli Tepe, meaning pot-belly hill in Turkish, appears unremarkable at first glance. There are no towering ruins, no walls, no signs of cities or homes. And yet, Buried beneath this artificial mound is one of the most profound archaeological discoveries ever made. Göbekli Tepe dates to around 9600 BCE, more than 11,500 years ago. This places it deep in the pre-pottery Neolithic period, thousands of years before Stonehenge, before the pyramids, and before agriculture was thought to exist. At this time, according to long-held assumptions, humans were nomadic hunter-gatherers, living in small groups with limited social organization. Göbekli Tepe challenges every part of that narrative. The site was first noted in the 1960s, but dismissed as a medieval cemetery. It was not until the 1990s that German archaeologist Klaus Schmidt recognized its true significance. What he uncovered was staggering. Massive T-shaped stone pillars, some weighing over 15 tons, arranged in circular enclosures. These stones were carved with reliefs of animals, foxes, snakes, boars, vultures, and insects, rendered with precision and intent. There is no evidence of domestic life here, no hearths, no houses, no trash pits. Göbekli Tepe was not a settlement, it was something else entirely. A place built not to live in, but to gather, to ritualize, and perhaps to believe. The most unsettling question Göbekli Tepe raises is simple. Who built it? At the time of its construction, humans had not yet developed pottery, metal tools, wheeled transport, or domesticated animals. The builders of Göbekli Tepe were hunter-gatherers using stone tools, and yet they quarried, transported, carved, and erected some of the largest stone monuments of the prehistoric world. Each circular enclosure consists of outer pillars facing inward, surrounding two larger central pillars. These central stones often bear carved arms and hands, suggesting they represent stylized human or supernatural beings. They are not abstract, they are intentional. This implies planning, coordination, leadership, and shared purpose on a scale previously thought impossible for non-agricultural societies. To construct Göbekli Tepe, hundreds of people may have been required, working over generations. This forces a radical rethinking of human development. Rather than agriculture leading to organized religion and monumental architecture, Göbekli Tepe suggests the opposite. Shared belief may have come first. In this view, religion, or at least ritual, was not a byproduct of civilization. It was the engine that drove it. The need to gather for ceremonies may have encouraged seasonal settlement. Feeding large groups may have pushed experimentation with wild grains. Over time, this pressure could have led to the domestication of plants and animals. Göbekli Tepe does not sit at the end of the hunter-gatherer era. It may sit at the beginning of civilization itself.
Göbekli Tepe is not only impressive in scale, it is deeply symbolic. The animal carvings are not decorative. Predatory creatures dominate the imagery. Lions, snakes, scorpions, animals associated with danger and power. Human figures are rare, fragmented, or headless. This imbalance suggests a worldview shaped by fear, reverence, and the unseen forces of nature. Some enclosures include reliefs interpreted as decapitated heads or vultures carrying human remains. This echoes later Neolithic practices of skull cults and sky burials, where bodies were exposed to birds as part of funerary rituals. Göbekli Tepe may have been a place where the living interacted with the dead or with spirits believed to inhabit the landscape. The T-shaped pillars themselves may represent ancestral beings, gods, or guardians. Their faceless forms give them a timeless, inhuman presence. They stand not as portraits, but as symbols. There is also evidence that Göbekli Tepe was deliberately buried. After centuries of use, its enclosures were carefully filled with debris, animal bones, and stone fragments. This was not destruction, it was closure. The act of burying the site suggests ritual decommissioning, a conscious end to its sacred function. New enclosures were then built nearby, repeating the cycle. This implies continuity of belief across generations, guided by tradition rather than chance. Göbekli Tepe was not random. It was remembered, maintained, and eventually sealed, like a message buried for the future. Around 8000 BCE, Göbekli Tepe was abandoned entirely. By then, the world was changing. Agriculture was emerging across the Fertile Crescent. Permanent villages were forming. New social structures replaced older ritual-centered gatherings. Göbekli Tepe belonged to an earlier mindset, a world where belief came before cities and meaning before permanence. Only a small portion of the site has been excavated. Geophysical surveys suggest dozens of additional enclosures remain buried beneath the hill. What we know may be only a fragment of a much larger sacred landscape. Its discovery has forced archaeologists to reconsider the origins of religion, social complexity, and civilization itself. Göbekli Tepe does not fit neatly into existing timelines. It breaks them. It reminds us that human history is not a straight line of progress, but a series of experiments, some remembered, others forgotten. Today, Göbekli Tepe stands as a silent challenge to modern assumptions. It tells us that long before writing, before farming, before cities, humans were already capable of abstract thought, collective effort, and profound symbolic expression. Civilization did not begin with bricks and fields. It began with stories, rituals, and the shared need to understand a mysterious world.
Hidden along the arid cliffs of the Gobi Desert in northwest China lies the extraordinary complex of the Dunhuang Mogao Caves, also known as the Caves of the Thousand Buddhas. Established during the 4th century CE, these caves represent one of the most significant cultural and religious landmarks along the ancient Silk Road. Serving as both a spiritual retreat and a hub of artistic expression, the Mogao Caves were carved into the cliffs overlooking the Dang River, offering protection from harsh desert winds while creating an awe-inspiring sanctuary for Buddhist monks and travelers. The origins of the caves are deeply intertwined with the spread of Buddhism from India into Central Asia and China. As trade along the Silk Road flourished, merchants, pilgrims, and monks traveled vast distances, exchanging not only goods but also ideas, texts, and artistic styles. The caves became a repository for these cultural exchanges, with murals, statues, and manuscripts reflecting influences from Indian, Persian, and even Greco-Roman art. Initially, the caves served religious purposes, with early monks seeking meditation and spiritual enlightenment in the solitude of the desert cliffs. Over time, wealthy patrons and local officials sponsored the creation of elaborate murals and sculptures, demonstrating both piety and prestige. Each cave is unique, with intricate carvings and vivid frescoes depicting Buddhist sutras, divine figures, and scenes from daily life along the Silk Road. The historical significance of the Mogao Caves extends beyond their religious function. They are a living record of centuries of cross-cultural interaction, illustrating how art and spirituality could flourish amidst the dynamic and often perilous environment of the Silk Road. From modest beginnings, the caves would eventually grow into a sprawling network of over 700 chambers, each telling its own story of devotion, commerce, and artistic achievement. By the Tang Dynasty, 618 to 907 CE, the Mogao Caves had reached the height of their artistic and architectural splendor. The caves were meticulously carved into the cliffs, with interiors designed to accommodate both religious ceremonies and the display of elaborate murals. Frescoes, painted with mineral-based pigments, cover the walls and ceilings, depicting Buddhist cosmology, the lives of the Buddha, bodhisattvas, and scenes of paradise along the Silk Road.
The sophistication and scale of the artwork make the Mogao Caves a veritable museum of ancient Chinese Buddhist art. Sculptural works complement the murals, ranging from small votive figures to towering statues exceeding 10 meters in height. The statues often feature intricate drapery, serene facial expressions, and elaborate jewelry, reflecting influences from India and Central Asia. Each element is designed with precision, creating a harmonious fusion of spirituality and aesthetics that resonates through the centuries. The Mogao Caves also functioned as centers of manuscript preservation. Hidden chambers, such as the famed Library Cave, Cave 17, contained tens of thousands of documents, including Buddhist sutras, administrative records, and secular literature. These manuscripts, dating from the 4th to the 11th centuries, offer unparalleled insight into the social, economic, and religious life of Dunhuang. They reveal the multicultural nature of the region, with texts written in Chinese, Tibetan, Sanskrit, Sogdian, and other languages, underscoring the city's role as a nexus of ideas and commerce. Beyond their visual beauty, the caves illustrate the evolution of artistic techniques over centuries. Early murals emphasize simplicity and devotional purpose, while later works during the Tang and Song dynasties showcase intricate detail, vibrant color palettes, and narrative complexity. The Mogao Caves stand as a testament to human creativity, spiritual devotion, and the enduring power of cultural exchange.
Despite centuries of flourishing, the Mogao Caves faced periods of decline due to political instability, natural disasters, and shifts in trade routes. By the late Yuan and early Ming dynasties, many caves were abandoned or fell into disrepair. Sandstorms and erosion gradually damaged murals and sculptures, while human activity, including looting, contributed to further deterioration. The modern rediscovery of the Mogao Caves began in the early 20th century, largely due to Western explorers and archaeologists, such as R.L. Stein and Paul Pelliot. In 1900, a hidden chamber known as the Library Cave was found sealed for centuries, revealing an extraordinary treasure trove of manuscripts, paintings, and historical documents. The discovery captured the imagination of scholars worldwide, highlighting Dunhuang's pivotal role in the history of art, religion, and international trade. Efforts to preserve the Mogao Caves began soon after, with both Chinese authorities and international organizations seeking to protect the delicate murals and sculptures from environmental damage and human interference. Advances in conservation techniques, including climate control, digital documentation, and careful restoration, have helped safeguard the caves for future generations. The site now serves not only as a historical monument, but also as a research hub for scholars studying the Silk Road, Buddhism, and cross-cultural artistic influences. The cave's preservation highlights the fragility of cultural heritage and the importance of protecting historical sites. Each mural and manuscript is a window into the past, offering insights into religious devotion, artistic innovation, and the complex interplay of cultures along one of the world's most famous trade routes. Today, the Dunhuang Mogao Caves are celebrated as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, recognized for their exceptional cultural, historical, and artistic value. Tourists, scholars, and pilgrims alike are drawn to the site, marveling at the intricate murals, statues, and manuscripts that have survived over a millennium. The caves offer a rare glimpse into the spiritual and artistic life of the Silk Road, illustrating how art, religion, and commerce intersected in a vibrant and multicultural environment. Mogao's legacy extends far beyond its physical beauty. The caves exemplify the spread and adaptation of Buddhism, revealing how religious traditions were localized and blended with regional artistic styles. The manuscripts preserved in the caves provide invaluable historical data, informing modern understanding of politics, society, and daily life in medieval China and Central Asia. Moreover, the Mogao Caves inspire contemporary artists and scholars who study the techniques, narratives, and iconography of the murals to understand cross-cultural influence and artistic innovation.
Digital preservation projects, virtual tours, and high-resolution imaging now make it possible for people worldwide to experience the caves without physically visiting, ensuring that Dunhuang's treasures continue to educate and inspire. Ultimately, the Dunhuang Mogao Caves stand as a testament to the enduring human spirit, creativity, and devotion. From their origin as humble meditation spaces to their transformation into a global symbol of art, culture, and spirituality, the caves remain a timeless monument to the Silk Road's rich history, a place where history, religion, and art converge in breathtaking harmony.
High in the rugged mountains of southeastern Anatolia, where winter snow lingers long into spring and the horizon seems endless, rises Mount Nemrut. At an elevation of over 2,100 meters, this isolated peak was never meant to be ordinary. It was chosen deliberately to impress, to intimidate, and to endure. Unlike most ancient monuments, Mount Nemrut was not built for the living. It was built for eternity. At its summit stands a massive artificial mound of crushed limestone, rising like a pyramid of stone. Surrounding it are terraces lined with colossal seated statues, gods, animals, and a king who dared to place himself among them. Their heads, now toppled and scattered, stare outward with hollow, weathered eyes. This is not a natural sanctuary shaped by centuries of worship. It is a carefully designed statement of power, belief, and legacy. And behind it stands a single figure, King Antiochus I of Commagene. Antiochus ruled a small but strategically vital kingdom in the 1st century BCE, positioned between the Roman and Parthian empires. Commagene was a cultural crossroads, and Antiochus saw himself not merely as a ruler, but as a bridge between worlds, bloodlines, and gods. Mount Nemrut was his masterpiece, a mountain transformed into a divine throne. King Antiochus I was not content with being remembered as a mortal king. He claimed divine ancestry, tracing his lineage to both Persian kings and Alexander the Great. Through this carefully crafted genealogy, he positioned himself as the embodiment of East and West. This ideology is carved directly into Mount Nemrut. The statues that once sat intact depict a unique fusion of deities, Zeus combined with the Persian god Ahura Mazda, Apollo merged with Mithras and Helios, and Hercules linked to the Iranian god Varathragna. These hybrid gods reflect Antiochus's vision of unity, a syncretic religion designed to legitimize his rule and elevate his status beyond death. At the center stands Antiochus himself, equal in size to the gods. This was not symbolic humility, it was a declaration: the king belongs among the divine. Inscribed on stone slabs surrounding the terraces is a long funerary inscription written in Greek. In it, Antiochus explains his divine mission, commands rituals in his honor, and threatens divine punishment upon anyone who neglects his cult. He carefully describes festivals, sacrifices, and priestly duties meant to ensure his eternal remembrance. The burial chamber itself remains undiscovered, believed to lie deep beneath the stone mound. Despite centuries of excavation attempts, no one has reached Antiochus's tomb. The mountain keeps its secret. What is clear, however, is the ambition. Mount Nemrut was not just a tomb, it was a cosmic stage where the king would sit forever, watching the sun rise and set, eternally honored by gods and men.
Antiochus's dream of immortality did not survive history. After his death, the kingdom of Commagene endured briefly, balancing precariously between Rome and Parthia. Eventually, Rome absorbed it entirely. The royal cult faded. Rituals ceased, priests disappeared. The gods on Mount Nemrut were left alone with the wind. Earthquakes likely toppled the colossal heads from their bodies. Harsh weather eroded facial features once carved with precision. Snow, ice, and time reduced divine certainty to stone fragments scattered across the terraces. Unlike temples in cities, Mount Nemrut had no population to protect it, no community to maintain its rituals. Its isolation, once its greatest strength, became the reason for its abandonment. For centuries, the mountain faded into legend. Local shepherds passed by the strange stones but did not know their origin. Classical writers mentioned Commagene only briefly. Antiochus's name nearly vanished from memory. It was not until the late 19th century that Mount Nemrut was rediscovered by modern scholars. What they found was both breathtaking and unsettling, a sacred site frozen between belief and decay, ambition and oblivion. The gods still faced the sky, but no one was watching them anymore. Mount Nemrut is not just an archaeological site, it is a psychological monument, a reflection of humanity's fear of death and desire for meaning. Antiochus believed that memory could defeat mortality, that by placing himself among the gods, carving his story into stone, and commanding eternal rituals, he could transcend time. In some ways, he succeeded. His mountain still stands. His name is spoken again. But the silence surrounding Nemrut tells another story. The rituals ended. The gods fell. The empire that inspired the monument vanished. What remains is not eternal worship, but unanswered questions. Was Antiochus sincere in his beliefs, or was Mount Nemrut a calculated act of propaganda? Did the people of Commagene truly embrace his divine claims, or did they merely comply? Today, visitors climb the mountain before dawn to watch the sun rise between the broken heads of gods and kings. In that moment, a monument fulfills its original purpose, not as a cult center, but as an experience of awe. Mount Nemrut is not just an archaeological site, it is a psychological monument, a reflection of humanity's fear of death and desire for meaning. Antiochus believed that memory could defeat mortality, that by placing himself among the gods, carving his story into stone, and commanding eternal rituals, he could transcend time. In some ways, he succeeded. His mountain still stands. His name is spoken again. But the silence surrounding Nemrut tells another story. The rituals ended. The gods fell. The empire that inspired the monument vanished. What remains is not eternal worship, but unanswered questions. Was Antiochus sincere in his beliefs, or was Mount Nemrut a calculated act of propaganda? Did the people of Commagene truly embrace his divine claims, or did they merely comply? Today, visitors climb the mountain before dawn to watch the sun rise between the broken heads of gods and kings. In that moment, the monument fulfills its original purpose, not as a cult center, but as an experience of awe. Mount Nemrut reminds us that power seeks permanence, but time remains undefeated. Even the boldest attempts at immortality are reshaped by erosion, reinterpretation, and silence. Yet perhaps that is the true legacy of Nemrut, not a king who became a god, but a human who revealed in stone and scale how deeply we long to be remembered.